having a great day today. All right, today is our Homemaking with Amy series. I'm glad you're here. Last week we went through and got those closets weeded out and cleaned out. And so then this week I was like, which do I start on next? And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be outside. The only reason I'm outside is because I need to talk and my house is all sleeping. So I thought, I'll come out and talk. So a few weeks ago, we did our cleaning schedule, right? We did our cleaning schedule, set that all up. Sometimes when you like try to get every single job in your home in, that's a great way to get them all made sure that they're all taken care of and will be appointed for at some point in your week or month. So now today I was going to talk about managing your home. Schedules are good, right? They get you all set and going, but there's also a key aspect into managing and getting everything done, because cleaning schedules are good, but I also have to run to the library. I also have to make sure that I get my bills paid, paperwork and all that, the desk done. I also want to get some baking done with the kids. I also need to make sure that, you know, I schedule time to deep clean, all those things. So this is going to be about managing your home and setting apart days to do certain tasks for your week. Like I know at the beginning of the week myself, I get like a mental note of all the things that I need to accomplish during the week. If I need to go somewhere, I need to do something, I'm like, okay, I kind of need to play these things out. And then sometimes the end of the week hits and you're like, I didn't even get to do that. And then you're scrambling to get them accomplished. And then usually they get pushed to the weekend and you're catching up on the weekend and doing that, when those days can be set aside to be spent time with family and doing things like that. So how do you go about fixing that? You make a plan. Now, many housewives and women of bygone eras, they used to set aside certain days to do things. Like if you read the Lost on the Prairie books, right? Ma washed on Monday. I think it was she mended on Tuesday, did certain things on Wednesday. Now, certain things like that, it's because the wash took all day to do, right? So, and it took to iron. I would not do that because I would not iron or mend it. Yeah, we wouldn't be mending anything, right? So, but we can take that concept and put that into our lives today and have specific days set aside to do different tasks. And it's more of your focus. It doesn't mean that that's all you do that day, because most of the time it doesn't take us all day to do laundry. I mean, unless you haven't done laundry for a long time and you have a whole lot to get done, right? So the main focus is for our family is laundry is huge. Paperwork, bill paying days, all the little things, emails, all those things that office work, I call it, is big. Cleaning the house is big because there's a lot to clean. Running errands is another big thing that we have to do, and also baking, because that's a big part of what we do each week. Now, the way that I set up this managing system is when I was home most of the time. Now, this was one, it's from my book, Large Family Mothering. And I explain it in detail, but I also go explain it on my blog. You can go, I'll put the link to it below. It's got pictures and things that I did when I was home full time. Like right now I'm home with my kids, but I'm also working. I'm doing videos for you guys, and that takes up time. And I have Lauren hired, and I do different things on different days, a little bit different because it's a lot more work and my life is a little bit different. So this was more focused, hey, I'm at home with all my little kids, this is what I'm doing. And it may not work for you, you might have to set it up differently. That's the key. I'm just gonna give you an example of what we did to get everything accomplished each week. So we set up Monday. Monday was laundry day. Now, for us, this was back in the day when we could do this. I could not do all of my laundry in one day. If I did that, my septic in front of my house would be overflowing and we would have way too much water. So I cannot designate an entire day to laundry in our home. I still keep this way and do most of my laundry on Monday, but I also do it a load during the week, like maybe on Wednesday I won't put it away, and then on Friday I do it because I like to break it up because we have so much to do. But the majority of my laundry is Monday, and then back in the day I did it all on Monday. And the reason why I set Monday as laundry day is because after the weekend we were out doing things, and we had church and we had activities, and we had a lot of laundry from the weekend. So I had a big giant pile on Monday morning. And so if you teach your kids, it's something to keep up on, to pick up their laundry and put it immediately into the laundry bin. That is a huge thing to do. Not always. I mean, I know that I still have to go into my boys' room and be like, pick up your laundry off your floor and get it in the bin if you want it washed. And so, because otherwise they will just sit there and not get done. Now, if you see laundry on the floor, it's good to call the kids right away and say, oh, go pick up your stuff. I know I'll walk in the boys' bathroom. The girls' bathroom doesn't think. The girls do a good job downstairs, but upstairs, I have to look in the boys' bathroom and be like, oh, you left clothes behind the door, or there's a washcloth, make sure you go pick that up. Because if the laundry's left on the floor, guess what? It doesn't have to get washed. Right? Now they're not gonna have any clothes. Little kids don't understand this. Older kids do, but the little ones don't always do that. So for my laundry day, I would have separated my laundry. I do things different now because I don't have a laundry room, like I said. So I'm gonna use the example of when it was when I had little kids. So I would separate my laundry into big piles. I had towels, lights, darks, and work clothes and diapers. That's what we had to separate and to do. And then I also looked at my cleaning schedule, and I would figure out whose bedding is to be washed that week. Because remember, I separated the bedding into 4 different weeks. Like the first week is ours, the second week is the girls, third week is the little boys, fourth week is the older boys. And so that week I would make sure I get that bedding off the bed as well. Now, if it was going to be back in Michigan, I used to hang my laundry out. I loved it, loved it, loved it. Here, can't do that. I would love, certain times a year you can, but most of the time there's 10,000 things of pollen in the air, and that does not do good for allergens. So you can't hang out as much, and it's pretty muggy, so it doesn't get dried as much. So, but I would always focus on, I'd get up early and I'd start washing, and I might do towels first because towels take a long time. So I would do towels first, get those on the wash, and then get them through the washer, and then go hang them out on the laundry because those would take the longest. And then I would do the bedding and get that to go out. And then if it's still pretty sunny, I might get like the jean, like the work clothes, because jeans could go on the clothesline really well, as you know, good too. The heavier items, I would make sure that I get washed first so they can get out and get dried. Now, if I didn't have that, I put them in dryer. Sometimes, like even now, I'll do towels. I try to do towels first because they take longer. And then by the time the kids get up and do chores, they can fold those first versus waiting till later in the day to fold the towels, because sometimes they don't get folded if you wait till later on in the day. And then I separated clothing just like I do now into the baskets, our baskets, the girls, the boys. That's all I have to do now. And the towels basket. And I still wash everything in cold water. But I wash everything in cold water. Still do that. The hot water I did for cloth diapers. And for little kids to protect their clothing, we use lots and lots of bibs. Instead of having to try to get their stains out of their clothing, we would just wear a lot of bibs when they were little. And if I have anything that has to be washed by hand, usually I put that on the washer, and then I would just go get like an ice cream bucket and wash that in the kitchen sink. I don't have as much hand washing clothes as I did. Now, if I have enough, I'll just put like a gentle cycle and throw a bunch in there and I'll save it. But if I didn't, I would do, just in my sink, I would do my lighter color clothing first in the bin, like an ice cream bucket, squeeze it out to, you know, rinse it off, and then I would do darkers, because darkers sometimes will bleed into the water, and you don't want that in your lighter color clothing. You have to focus on listening for the washer to be done, the dryer to be done, so that you can flip that laundry and keep it going. Your goal, if you set your laundry up for Monday, would be to get all of your like your laundry completed, washed and dried on that day. Then at the end of the day, we would take all of our baskets after everything was washed, and we would be taking our baskets to our rooms, and we would put away the clothing there. Towels would get folded, and we'd be putting those away now as well. For now, if I start early in my day, I can have my laundry washed before noon, all of it, if I do have a whole lot, and get it done. When I had little kids and I had a different size washer, sometimes it took all day, and then by nighttime, like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I would have everything washed and we could put it away, and especially if I was hanging things out to dry. But if I started early, even before the sun came up in the morning, I was able to get the towels were to dry outside, and then I was able to fold them and put them away. And we did that we had stiff towels for a long time. I still miss a stiff towel hanging outside, but that's okay. Dryers work good too. So that worked good for me when I had little ones and we didn't have to worry about septic and all that before. But now my goal, like I said, I do it. Usually I focus 2 days a week. If I can throw a load in during the week, that's okay. I do that. But if I don't, it's okay too. Sometimes I just kind of glance in the bins, the laundry hampers as I'm walking by, or make sure there's enough towels. Usually we have towels in 1, 2, 3 different bathrooms. So if there's missing a towel in one, we can go get another one. And then I always have backups of beach towels, like for the pool and stuff. So we could grab those if we need to, and we have done that before. So you just have to do what works good for your family. So kind of focus, like, what day can you really dedicate to your laundry? Because laundry is a big part in a home, usually for everybody. So that's what we do, is our Mondays. And then Tuesdays came around. Tuesdays were cleaning days back in the day. Now this is when I had little kids, again, focused more on getting that day focused on this. So I would really dedicate to getting my deep cleaning, like when we did our cleaning schedule. When I set that up, I kind of did my more chores that day. And that day before, the Tuesdays are now my running day, but Tuesdays before I would always set up and I would do like my bathrooms, because those take more time to do. So I would make sure that I get my deep cleaning done that day. I would mop my floors really good. I would clean the bathrooms really good. I'd get all my dusting, windows, that kind of thing focused on that day. And then when I had extra deep cleaning chores, like remember when we set up our calendar and we did our like deep clean focus for the month. So like the first week I might focus on our kitchen, second week will be living room. So whatever that was, I would really focus it on that day to get those deep cleaning chores done too. So if I did when I did my deep cleaning, if I did my bathroom, that means that throughout the week, I usually just do a quick wipe of the bathroom. You guys see my videos, I still do that same schedule now. I just do my deep cleaning on a different day. It depends on what day I can do it. Usually it's Friday, but not always. Right now, everything's kind of out of whack schedule. So sometimes it's Thursday, sometimes it's Friday. It just depends on how life goes. Sometimes it's Monday, it just depends. I'm able to flip-flop it but I still focus mostly on that one day of the deep clean, depending on when I can be home full time. So if I deep cleaned on Tuesday, then I would have done like just a spot wipe of the bathroom, and knowing that I'm going to deep clean it the following Tuesday, so I just keep wiping up if there was stuff on the toilet or the sinks, and the tubs I know would get deep cleaned on that one day a week. And so, you know, get in there and start sprinkling stuff in your tub and let it sit for a little bit. Get stuff in your toilet, squish it around, let it sit, and then start wiping everything down with a good cloth. Clean it out really good. I like to keep my cleaning supplies in each bathroom. I just started doing that this year. I didn't do it when I had little kids. I never kept any cleaners anywhere in the home that a child could get to. I always put them up, even the homemade ones. I actually had a cupboard above, back in our old house in Michigan, I had a cupboard above our stove, and that's where I kept all my cleaning supplies, because I didn't want to risk any of the child getting into anything on the floor. And so I never kept anything in the bathrooms before. I do now, because my kids are old enough to know not to go in the bathroom and get anything. Plus it's just vinegar. But that's what we did before. And then also when you're doing that deep cleaning, like when you're cleaning that bathroom, always look through your supplies real quick and go, oh, do you need more shampoo, or it's almost out? I like to add a little bit of water in our almost empty shampoo bottles, just shake it around a little bit, set it up, get a new bottle and put it down like on the ledge of the tub so that we can grab that when that's out. Check your toilet paper, make sure that there's always toilet paper somewhere extra. Toothpaste, same thing. Always go through and kind of see if you have to replenish your supplies for the, you know, the week, or the week that you're doing this as well. Now I like to do my chores early in the day. You guys watch my videos, I still do my chores early in the day. If I get that done before the kids, it's one less thing to do, because when it gets in the afternoon, you're like, ugh, the last thing I want to do is go clean that toilet right now. Trust me, you don't want to do that. So if I focused on Tuesday being my cleaning day and I didn't have a lot of little kids and a lot of extra stress, I would really work hard to get that done. Just like on Monday, I'd work really hard to getting all my laundry washed. Tuesday, I would say, okay, this is my goal Tuesday. I'm going to get up a little bit earlier. I'm going to get those tubs cleaned. I'm going to focus on getting that done no matter what. And maybe I can only do a tub, and then maybe after lunch I can go do the toilets, and then maybe at nap time I can hurry up and wash the sinks. However it works, just make that your goal and your focus for that day to get that deep cleaning job done. If it's your floors, go, okay, after lunch, everybody's going to pick up everything and we're going to sweep, and then we're going to do a good mop of the floor. Whatever it is, kind of focus in the morning, early in the morning, go, okay, this is what I got to do today, and just get it accomplished. That's what you got. You might have to break it up depending on your schedule and your home and your life, your kids, and all those things that goes with that, but make it your goal to focus on getting that done that day. You got to do what works good for you. If you have a large home and you can't do that all in one day, then don't work on this. You might have to break it up within a couple days. It just depends on your schedule and your home. I still like to keep, I don't do Tuesdays, but I usually it's more like my Fridays. Usually at the end of the week I like to do my deep Fridays or Mondays, depending on my week, my bigger deep cleaning, focusing on getting my extra chores done, because that's the way it works in our lives right now. So it depends on your situation, your home, your amount of kids, the size of your home, what you have to accomplish, but focus on a specific day as your deeper cleaning day so that you can get that done. All right, so we're done with deeper cleaning. Okay, now we're gonna go on to our next day. Wednesday, it was my kitchen day. And this still kind of is my kitchen day. I usually try to do more baking on Wednesday. When you guys watch my day in the life, I still like to do Wednesday as my kitchen day. So kitchen day for me, this was way before once a month freezer meal prep. This was more of once a week extra food prep, and it was still, I did this way back in the day with little kids. I did some freezer things, but not like I do now, because I was home more. But we still focused on one day a week doing mass food production, just like we do now. So Wednesday was our kitchen, we call it baking day. So how I started out my day was I would grab an apron. And the reason why I grabbed an apron is because every single shirt that I wore would have a stain right here on the stomach and right here on the top, and that just was natural. So I started buying aprons. I'm like, wow, aprons, amazing. These things protect your clothing. You're tired of your shirts being stained? Get yourself some aprons. They're cheap. My favorite aprons are the polyester ones. They're 100% polyester. They don't wrinkle, because wrinkled aprons I do not iron. You know, I don't have an ironing day. So those were my favorite. The cotton ones, they get all like wrinkly, unfortunately, or the thicker ones, but they're usually a little bit thicker. But polyester ones are so nice. I don't even have one right now that's polyester, but I bought one time. Walmart had one, and I was like, this is the greatest. It had a big pocket, and it dried and washed nice, and it was just a great apron, but I haven't found one like that yet, so since then. But that is the best. If you can find 100% polyester, oh, so nice. Won't wrinkle at all. You'll love it. And so the other ones, I mean, they work good too, but polyester was better. So I would start my day with that. I like the pocket on the apron because I can keep tiny things in it when I'm going along my day, and I can throw something in there and I remember it. So, you know, I always get my earbud in when I start my baking day. So when I get my apron on, I always start like thinking about what I want to make that week. And so usually I like to have a couple snacks during the week. I still do that. I did this back in the day when I had little kids. I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, look at those things we had. And I still like to do that now. So we would do puppy chow Rice Krispie treats. We made some apple dapple cake. I'm looking at my list here. Granola bars. Usually through the month, when I set up my schedule and went shopping, I would focus on having like my monthly menu. I do a little different now, but I still did the same concept. I would plan out my foods, my lunches, breakfast, and then I have desserts and treats. And so I kind of focused on, like, I'd have 8 of them, because 2 each week. And then 2 things would go together. Like I had puppy chow and Rice Krispie treats. Those 2 were together. Apple dapple cake and granola bars. The next one was pumpkin muffins and banana bread, because they were both baked. Energy bites and chocolate chip bars. Just different things like that that I would put together to focus on making that each week. And then also when I was doing my baking day, I was also kind of focused on what I needed to like get more of in my freezer. Like if I was looking at, I didn't have any refried beans, I might work on making refried beans and stocking up my freezer with that. Or dried beans to make and put in the freezer for a meal. And if I didn't have a lot of breakfast foods, I might look and go, oh, I have a lot of eggs. We had chickens. I'm reading this, I'm like, chickens, we had a lot of eggs. So we had, I'd say, oh, there's an abundance of eggs. So well, let's make a bunch of breakfast burritos to put in the freezer for breakfast. Or French toast sticks were really good for the kids when they were little. And then chicken, I would cook a lot of chicken, and then we would put it in I use the crock pot. In the crock pot, we don't use crock pot anymore, I use pressure cooker, and then I put it in the freezer for a later meal. Soups were always good to make on these days too, and stock up freezers. So these were things I did back in the day. I'm like, okay, look at that. It was just something we would do. And if I didn't have a plan for the day, I would go check my freezers and look and see what we have an abundance of. I still do that now. I go and look and I say, what do we have a lot of? Back in the day, we would have had like bananas, a lot of mashed bananas, diced up apples, because we had a lot of apples, and zucchini, shredded zucchini, because we would have gardens and stuff like that. So I'd think about, okay, let's do some muffins or bread. And sometimes we didn't have snack foods because there was no extras that month. But I always had popcorn seeds, so we would make a big thing of popcorn. Something to have, to enjoy, something simple. Now, when I did my baking day, I always started out, because when you bake all day, especially when you have little kids, even when you do freezer meal prep, the last thing you want to do is stop and make dinner. Trust me, it never was fun. We would designate back in the day 1 day a week to our spaghetti. We had spaghetti, I think the kids now, Lauren's like, we had spaghetti so much when the kids are little. I'm like, I know, because it was easy. So I would start my day off with that. We had a lot of frozen tomatoes from a garden, so I would start by putting that I put it in the crock pot, so it would take time, and then it would thaw and cook for the day. By the end of the day, all I do was cook some noodles, and we had spaghetti for dinner that night. And I usually had homemade bread as well, so that was an easy meal to put together on that day. So we would do that, and then it did take up any oven space, so I just put it in the crock pot and let it cook all day long. When I was baking, I still do this now, depending on how big of a bowl I do. I like to get my sink filled with hot soapy water, so that as I'm cooking and making things, I can put my stuff in the sink real quick, wash it off, and put it on the mat next to it to keep it going. I like to keep up on dishes versus not, because otherwise at the end you have a whole lot of mess to clean. And sometimes I do that, but most of the time I like to keep up on it. Now, along with the baking day, so I would focus on getting my baking done that day. That was our day. We designate, everybody came to the kitchen, we'd cut up extra carrots and celery, and we'd have that out and put that in the refrigerator. We would do all of our baking and have that all set out. We usually made an extra meal and took a meal to somebody on that day, a hospitality meal I called it. And so on that day we would take like some dessert and a meal to somebody. And so that was just something we like to do every single Wednesday. And then since we were baking that day, guess what I did on Wednesday? I also did a deep clean of my kitchen that day. So when I knew that during the day, what I would do, I do this now mostly a couple times a week because the amount of use my kitchen gets, but back then I would make sure that I wipe out my microwave. I'd wipe off my stove when I was done, clean that out, and the inside really good. Everything would get a real thorough cleaning that day. I would make sure to wipe counters and cupboards and countertops, the front of the cupboard on the bottom especially, because that gets really, really dirty. I would look in the drawers. I was just putting stuff away. I'd glance in my drawers to make sure everything was put away. Those kind of things. That was what I focused on each week, because the kitchen got dirty because we were in there a lot. So I would go through and clean it. Kids put things, I would have little kids put a lot of dishes away, and they wouldn't always put it in the right place. So I would go through and I'd make sure the drawers had the right silverware, the cupboards, with that kind of thing. That would be just my main focus each Wednesday. And then I also would focus if I was having too much, like if I was trying to shove hot pads in the drawers or forks and spoons in the drawers. If there was too much, take them away and put them out somewhere. We didn't need all that. I'd also wipe out my refrigerator that day, do a quick wipe, start at the top, work my way down. I'd look at my containers of condiments, things like that. If I had a little bit of salsa, I might have taken that out earlier in the day and thrown that in the spaghetti pot. Or if I had a lot of oranges, I'd take some out and put them on the counter. Kind of look through, see what we had to use up, things like that. Look through the leftovers, see if that's something we can use up, that week, and kind of set those out so everybody could get those used and gone. So then after I was all finished, I'd look around my kitchen and see if everything's done. We'll get a final wipe of the sink, take my rags, throw them in the laundry bin, and then my baking items, if we had a lot of extra, I'd put them in the freezer. The other snacks I'd put up high because, I had little kids to get into them. but it was good. My back was sore, I was tired. That day I felt a little exhausted, but you know what? I got a lot accomplished that day, and I got food stacked up for my family. So Wednesday was done. That was a bigger day, I knew that, but I was home Wednesday. We didn't go to Wednesday church at night. We were home that whole entire day, so that was a good day that we focused on food. Don't do that if you're gonna be going out for church at 4 o'clock or whatever. Do that a different day. That was just what we did, so that was an easy day to get that done on Wednesday. All right, Thursday came. Thursday was an easier day because Wednesday was a busier, tiring physical day, right? Being on your back and working all day long. So Thursday became my office day. Office day, what did I do on office day? I do office day different now. I still do 1 day a week, mostly. I still have to do work during the week, but focus on dedicating and getting my office stuff done. That's when the day I focus on all my paperwork. Like throughout the week, the kids might have told me a video to order for the library and I'd write it down. That was the day I paid my bills. I get all of my stuff accomplished that I would sit at a desk and do. That day I'll sit down and order all my library books for the kids if they wanted, because we do a lot of videos and DVDs and stuff, so I'll sit down and just do a mass order for the library that day. I also sit down and figure out what I want to do for my errands. The next day is going to be my errand day. So I would sit down and write down all the things that I needed to run to, all the stores, things like that, so that I could have that list focused out before I was heading out the door. I'd write down exactly what I needed from every store so I wouldn't miss anything. If I have to return something, I put it in a bag and put it by the door so it's ready to go. I'd keep a bag, get my library bag out, set that by the door so I don't forget that. I also pay all my bills that day that I had to pay each week. So for us, I'm looking at my book here and I'm like, oh, look at how I did things. I forget how I did things, but we were very paycheck to paycheck, like most people. And so my week 1 paycheck went to groceries. So I knew that whatever we got that month, the week 1 was going to groceries. The last month was going to our home. And the one in between, the second week was our gas, electric, internet, and trash bill. The third week was our insurance and cell phone bill. And I'm like, okay, look at that. So for myself, that was easy to know which paycheck went to each bill. But now I get paid once a month, and that's how we budget our money. And so when I get paid once a month, everything gets paid. So right now it's the end of the month. So right now I get my pay and I go through and I figure out how much I make each month. I set aside my tithe right away. I set aside my paying to Lauren right away. I set aside my taxes that I'm gonna have to owe because it's tax-free, and then I go through and pay all my bills, and my bills get paid. I set apart for grocery money. I get that much set up every month. I set apart for extra, if we need clothing, that kind of thing, and then I put the rest away in a savings. That's what we do for our pay right now. Just that's how we budget things. And sometimes, and also, like, if you have it, for us, the once a month, I don't mind it now, but back then I used to like to call my electric company, trash, things like that. They'll switch the day that your bill is due so that you can change which day it's due. So if you like to pay your bills at the beginning of the month, they'll switch your due date to the beginning of the month. That might help you too. If I had to mail any bills, which everything now is pretty much electronic transfer. I don't think I pay anything in the mail, do I? No, I don't even pay anything in the mail. But back in the day I had to. I think everything's electronic transfer now, pretty much everything. But if you can't, I would keep everything together. I would have put stamps in my drawer, envelopes in my drawer, that kind of thing, so I had it all in one spot. And then I also kept stamps in my purse. I kept stamps in my purse because my little ones thought stamps were stickers. So even though they're not supposed to be in my drawer in the first place, but I always hide them in my purse because I'd go, oh my goodness, that's a stamp, I just bought that. So I hid those in my purse. I also keep, I used to keep my errands with a clothespin. I'd keep all my bills with a clothespin. I still do that now. And then I keep that, if I had to do something, I'd keep that on a piece of paper. I always take that piece of paper with me and put it in my car. I did it back in the day in my van. I still do it now in my Pilot if I have to be, because I'll drive right past and go, oh, I totally forgot to go to the post office, or oh, I totally forgot to go here. So I make it a point to keep that little sticky note in my car still, so I know where I'm going. Also on my office day, if there was something I wanted to look up on the internet, now this was before the quick fast phone, I might focus on that day. If I was going to prepare a big giant freezer meal day, then on my office day I would really set aside. Now these things that I'm doing are doing my extra time during the day. I might, have nap time, extra time. So in the afternoon I might sit and go, okay, I'm going to look up some new recipes. So I would dedicate it to that time frame. This is some things I would do. Sometimes I might plan out our homeschooling days. I might plan out things that we had for church those days. Things like that. I would set that. I would do all those on that day. And that day I'd also set aside time to write letters to people. Yes, letters. People enjoy letters. I would do that on that day as well. This was important because I knew a lot of moms that were home like I was all day long, and we could not talk on the phone because it's impossible. Now you can text real quick, those things a day, but still people enjoy a letter in the mailbox. That was what my favorite thing was, walking out to my mailbox and getting my homemaking magazine or getting a letter from a friend, and it just brought such I saved it and I waited until I had some quiet time and I would read it that day. And so getting an encouraging letter from someone is great. When you write a letter to somebody, don't start complaining about your life. Don't do that. Don't tell them about all the woe. Start talking about the positives and the good things in your life and share that with them. Make sure your letter before you send it is going to be an uplifting letter. And if you're going to send something to a friend, always stick something in there, put a little recipe recipe card and put that in there. Sometimes, like my girls just got a letter and they had a pressed flower in there, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, and it was from another state. I'm like, that's a neat thing. You can always do a nice little something that doesn't take up, you know, any extra postage, but something small you can add. Maybe it's a little quote or verse or something, just so they can take it and be like, that's a neat thing to remember. So just something extra to add into your letter. So sometimes I'll get to my office day and I'll have nothing to do and I won't even know what to do, but that might be a day that I clean up my filing cabinets, because I keep my, you know, papers, and I might go through that and clean that out. And when I'm doing that, I might go through warranty cards and just make sure, clean, weed out things, check things that need to be thrown up. Some things, sometimes we buy warranties for things and they expire, so I make sure I throw those out. Clean out, weed out, paychecks, all those things, pay stubs, things that you don't need, you can pitch. If I didn't have anything else to do, I might do the kids' journals that day. I write their different milestones, I write different things just about them throughout the year, things that they've done that I might focus on that day. In the day we didn't have a lot of money for a lot of things, so I would do a lot of DIY projects, a lot. So a lot of gifts, things like that. So I might designate that day to sitting down and looking up DIY gifts or things for kids, things like that, or different activities I could do with them. That was just my focus on my office day. And sometimes I would start early in the year, like if I wanted to do gifts for my friends. Sometimes I saw this one gift one time, and it was a DIY, and it had a stainless steel water bottle, and it was a little basket and things that you put together for your friends. And they were, at Christmas time, to buy everything when you're on a budget is hard. I get that. So to do that extra gift was always too much. But if I waited, if I did throughout the year a little bit each month, it helps. So I would gather supplies up. I would, in my head, I'd start looking at my ideas, and then maybe in January I'd look at my ideas, and in February maybe I'd buy part of that gift. You know, I might spend $10 here, $10 there, and just grab. And by the end, in December, I always had a nice pile to put together and give to somebody. You can save up and buy gifts throughout the year. There might have been something I would do, a little DIY gift, and then I'd see it at Goodwill. I'd be like, ooh, I'm gonna grab those now because they're right there cheap. So if you kind of think ahead, look on those Pinterest boards, there's tons of DIY gifts, and you could start making those things throughout the year, and then at Christmas time, you can have some nice gifts to give to people. That just helps budget and stretch out that money. That just helped to, instead of me going, oh, I wish I would have got something for somebody, or I wish I would have made a gift for my friends, or I wish I would have had extra. If you think ahead of things you can do, you can put together a nice little set. Like maybe it's homemade, maybe you'll make some homemade treats for your friends. So then maybe throughout the year, maybe when you're going to Goodwill shopping, you'll find some really whole stack of Christmas containers for real cheap, and you can get them, or you know, whatever, something on clearance at the store one time and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna grab that and put that together for Christmas. So thinking ahead like that is good, and it makes you go, because when December comes, sometimes it's hard, and it's hard to like, oh, I can't take that money because that's gifts for my kids, and you might not have that much. So I get that. So planning ahead. And the same thing for my kids. If throughout the year they tell me things they want, I used to write it down. My husband is not too big on telling everything he wants, so usually if he says something throughout the year, I'd mark it down in my little planner so I knew an idea of things to get him for Christmas. So now that day, since I usually have a different cleaning day, this day was a lot lighter, my office day, and so sometimes I might have kept an easier, lighter chore, like dusting or window, things like that, window cleaning that day, just something lighter that the kids can help with as well. So that's what focus has, is my office day. Still do other chores. When you're doing these days, you're still doing your main chores of the day. You're still doing your daily chores. I still quick wipe the bathrooms, still sweep the floor, still do dishes, those things, but this is the extras that you do each day. All right, we're moving on to Friday. Friday was errand day. This was the day to go out and do all of our running. Now, I try to do my running once or twice a week now. It just works that way, but I still like to, I still like to just do errands once a week. If I have to go on a different day, I do, but usually I like to do all my running in one day. I still do the same. When I had little kids, it was so important to keep that because it was easier. All right, on errand day, it was so important for my kids. Back in the day, I was like, if you want to come with mom today and do running, because I had older ones that wanted to stay home, you have to get up, you have to get dressed, you have to clean your room up and get ready to get out the door. And if they didn't do that, then they weren't going to be coming with mama. But if I had a lot of little ones, I was not worried about getting a lot of chores done that day. So if you are just focusing on getting out the door, just get up and do your minimal. I remember when I had little ones, yeah, there was no making beds this day. This day was just get up and have breakfast, maybe wash those dishes if you have a chance. But sometimes it depends if you have a baby or that. My goal was just to do errands this day. That was my only focus for the day because I knew that Saturday I would be home. Again, depending on your situation. So set it up for whatever works for you. Just if you have a lot of little ones, make it just being able to get out the door. That's all. Whatever you can do in your stage of life. When I had a lot of little ones that could listen, I had to have a lot more structure. Like, okay, this is what we do. This is what we do. Go pick up your room while I'm getting this done. And I knew that they were going to do that. But if I have a lot of toddlers and babies that I take care of, that was not my concern whatsoever. And so, as I said, I've learned over the years that when you have little ones, it's best to be at home. And that is so true. I think I've talked to a lot of moms that have a lot of little ones right now when everybody's have to stay at home. And I'm like, how's it going? They're like, you know, honestly, I'm enjoying being at home. And I said, I know it's a whole lot easier. And it really is. When you have a lot of little kids, they like structure, they like routine, and they much rather be at home. To be upheavaled and do all this running all the time, it takes a toll. If you're having stress in your home and you have a lot of activities outside your home, I suggest scale back, which you are right now, and see like how much easier life is when you're just at home all the time. Now, if you have teenagers and they like to be out more, I get that, because they don't like to be stuck at home all the time. But when you have little ones, it's a lot easier to be at home and keep that strict schedule. I understand that completely, because when you have a nursing baby, which I did, a toddler, a bunch of preschool children, and some elementary children, and one of them was not feeling good, it was exhausting to take them out. Exhausting to take them out and come home. I remember going shopping and coming home and just like exhausted. It was a lot just to get the groceries in the house and put away. I would just sit the rest of the day because that's how tired I was with kids. So I understand the phases of life. When I had little kids, I wrote in here, I wrote in my book, I didn't have a stocked pantry. I couldn't even think about planning out my menu for the month. It was hard enough just for the week. Trips were every other week to the grocery store, and I had lots to get. Some days were great, others were always resulting in a meltdown by a child. Gone are those days. I'm thankful to be able to do what I do now, but I did get through it. What would I do different? So I put a little list here and I said I would have read my own book. I would have lessened my expectations for how I did things. For example, how I kept my house clean, having a better schedule, and keeping meals simple. And I would have stayed home more, because it makes a whole difference doing those things. And this is after I finally figured out what it was better to do that I started doing a schedule and a routine and sticking to it. And it made my days fly by. I knew what we were supposed to do each day, and the children did too. And our home was peaceful. Don't get discouraged if life is crazy. I understand it does. Take a couple hours and make that schedule like I have in that video, and have a plan and stick to it as best you can. Don't be rigid, but be flexible. It will make all the difference in the world, I promise. All right, so that was my advice to myself back in the day. Okay, now it's focusing on getting out the door. When we get up, we get our chores packed, we pack sandwiches, we always made a lunch, and grab some snacks to take in the car. We tried to get things like pretzels, because they would not make the child go to the bathroom, and apple slices because they didn't have a lot of liquid, and I would not have to worry about kids peeing. In our 15-passenger van, we had a potty chair. Oh, we did. I miss the potty chair. I mean, it's kind of weird having older kids use the potty chair, but we had a potty chair in our van because there was no way I could take all the kids to the bathroom. So potty chair was in the back. You had to go to the bathroom. You went in the back of the van and went to the bathroom. It worked. Hey, it worked, moms. Get a potty chair if you got a big van. So we would get our coolers with our water bottles and get that all set by the door. And then I also put together chili that day. I put in the crock pot, or soup. So in the morning I'd get up and I'd throw dinner in, because you still had to eat when you got home for dinner, and you would not want to make meals at all. So I would throw chili in my crock pot. That was simple to make, so we could get out the door and left down low. Everybody was dressed in comfortable clothing. The night before we picked out their clothes, we had them ready to go. If they liked sweatpants, they wore sweatpants because it was comfy and easy. And if they liked sparkly shoes, they wore sparkly shoes. It did not matter. Whatever was comfy and whatever was not going to result in a meltdown that day. And then we also took coolers with ice packs to keep things cold. We took extra bags back then. We took baskets for chips because we had a huge van, so I could take baskets huge for chips and bread so it wouldn't get smushy. So when the kids were eating breakfast, we had rules. We had to go over this. We had to talk, because when you have little kids, you have to go over rules. These were the rules I would go over with breakfast. We would say no screaming or being loud in the car. When getting out, be careful not to hit the car next to you. Don't brush up against the side of the van, because it always had dirt from the roads. Wait along the side while everyone is out. No running in the parking lot. Only touch things if you're going to buy them. Don't touch the candy in the checkout aisles, because it makes the chocolate melty and you could break them. No running or twirling in the store. Don't climb on objects when shopping. Don't ask for toys or items. I tell them where we are going and what we are doing. They are not to ask me anymore. My kids still do this today. Where are we going? Where are we going? And I said, I'm going to say this once. Every place we're going, you pay attention, and that's all I'm going to say it. And then pay attention to others around you. And smile. No one likes a grumpy face. No talking to strangers unless mom is nearby. Always stay near mom. If an elderly person or someone in a wheelchair needs assistance, help them. And if they're sitting in a wheelchair, put their items from their basket and put them on the checkout thing. If you don't, and then if they didn't obey the rules in the shopping store, they'd have to hold onto the cart the whole entire time, and they didn't like that. So when I was looking for a parking spot, I always tried to look in the front row. Oh, that's the best when you have little kids. But if I couldn't be right in the front, I would be right next to a shopping cart corral because I didn't want to leave my kids. So I'd always, like where they put the shopping carts, that's where I'd focus on parking. Before we went in the store, I said to everybody, get your drink of water. That's the last time we're gonna have water. And I'd say, remember the rules for shopping. I always tell them to smile and be pleasant because that's important. If I had a baby that is nursing, I made sure to feed that baby before we walked in that store because I knew that I'd have to feed that baby real quick and that's all the time we would have. Now when I was shopping and I had babies, I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to look that day, so I had to quickly get through my list and get everything that I'd had to get done. Whenever I started looking, it always made the toddler get cranky and the baby start crying. So you never want a screaming child. I've had the screaming children in the store before many times. And so if you focus and get your list done, I always make my grocery list according to the aisles. So I knew I started in the back of the store and went to the front. Nowadays you guys have grocery pickup, which is awesome. You don't even have to go in the store with those kids. But if you had to, that's how I'd set up my shopping plan so that I knew where I had to go to get my stuff to get out quickly. If the shopping day went smoothly and I was happy for the most part with the kids, we might get a treat. At the end of the store, I might grab a package of ice cream treats and reward the kids that did good. If the kids didn't do good, sometimes I had to not give a treat to a child who was really bad. That's hard to do, but most of the time, if they're good, I'll get a snack like that. Sometimes I grab a $5 pizza. Each kid gets a slice. I had napkins, make sure you get napkins. That's always some kind of fun treat to give on shopping day. As soon as we get in the car, everybody washes their hands with hand cleaner and we get buckled and we're ready to roll. We put the cold out into the cooler, chips and bread in the basket, and the bags stacked up. Now when we get home, I always remind them, grab everything in your row. I used to have a child be responsible for each row, and that child made sure that every little piece of trash and every little toy or shoes or coat or whatever was taken out of the car. Otherwise there'd be a big giant stuff left in my van. And in my van I would keep a little hand broom and we'd sweep out the van. That's what we would do on that day because I didn't have a day that I could just go and clean my car like I could now. And so they take that little hand broom which I left in my van and they just sweep out their little row because we had the rubberized floor. Not perfectly, but at least it gets done. Now depending on the weather and what it's like outside, if it was raining I might just have to bring the groceries with the older kids, or if it's really hot everybody's got to help. But sometimes if it's freezing, it's just the older ones get out there and bring the groceries in. Whoever can be available to help can bring them in. And when we're done, we gather up all our bags and put them in one bag and put them under the sink. We put the ice packs away and the coolers away. We put all the water bottles get rinsed out and filled back up, put back in the refrigerator. I always check at dinner, make sure it didn't burn, it's ready to go. And then usually we have some free time and everybody's able to do their own thing. And then mom would sit and go, oh my goodness. And then what I would do is take my purse and I'd take out any receipts, empty those out, put those away. If I didn't need any, I'd throw them away. If I needed them to return something, I'd keep them. I'd put them in my little clip and put them in by next week's, in my planner, so by Thursday next week I knew I'd go through them again. Any loose change I'd put back in my zipper of my purse, put my bank cards back where they go, put it away, and start looking forward to dinner. And then we also did our errands. We would have ran to our library on the way back, so we would go get our library books, put those where they needed to go, and put our bags away. Everything we did placed in the appropriate place, no matter how tired I was. Their kids' shoes were put away, their coats were hung up, if they had gloves, mittens, all that would get put away. And then finished. Errand day used to be exhausting. Errand days sometimes are still exhausting, even now. I mean, it depends on how much you have to do. So we just saved one day a week for that. We got everything done. I would even go so much as writing on my card of where I had to go for the store. So I knew that if you're driving, it's easier to turn right than left. This is something silly, but go to every store first on the right-hand side. So if your Sam's is easier, the Walmart, Aldi, however you go, the bank, the library, just kind of get your plan of where you're. I still do this now. I'm like, okay, where do we have to go? And then I kind of plan out every store I have to stop at. And if it's something like, I know my really cold items that I get is usually at Walmart. So I know to go to the other stores first and do that as my last store so that nothing has to sit too long in my car. So just having a plan, sticking to it, that's a good thing. And just knowing that you're not driving all over the place. So, all right, then we come to Saturday. Saturdays were our extra day. This was the day that Dad usually was home. So we would kind of keep our extra outside chores for when he was home. And if I had an unexpected day, like kids were sick or I had people stop over and I wasn't able to get baking done that day or cleaning, I might save that for Saturday morning and focus on that. And sometimes we'd be outside doing things like sweeping the porches off, cleaning up dog mess, all those things that we had to do, cleaning windows, that kind of thing. And if Dad maybe wasn't going to be home or he didn't have any plans, I might focus that day on like changing seasonal clothing out, decluttering a room of the house, organizing school for the next month, spending time with like sewing or crafting projects. But I also planned on being ready to go because Dad usually would come home and he'd be like, he might decide, you know what, let's just go somewhere. So in my head, I had to know my husband is real quick on let's just go. So I had to be prepared. I've had people that I've known that it would take them hours to get ready and get out the door, and I thought, people are like, how can you just get up and go? Because I've had to learn to do that. So in my head, I know where all my, like he might say, let's just go to the lake for the day, and I'd be like, okay. So I have to kind of know where my beach towels are. They're all in one area. I gotta know where everybody's bathing suits are. I gotta know where the grill is, the cooking utensils, things like that, coolers. And then I know, okay, grab coolers. Let's start filling with ice packs and cold food. Let's go get snacks in the bags. Let's get an extra outfit for the kids. You know, get the water toys, sand toys, the umbrella, things like that. But we keep it simple, but I still know where everything's at. So if we have to do a quick grab to get out the door, then we do. Because we do that a lot, and we'll just gonna grab and go. So I try to grab up, make sure I have everything for everybody, and just get out the door. And then Sundays are for resting and worship. Those are our days that we like to rest, relax in the home. So back when the kids were little, they would wear, I would have the kids, as soon as they got home from church, we do church different now because we're part of our church's ministry, so Sundays are a busy day for us, and so we really do serve in our church, things like that. But back before, when they had their nice church clothes they would wear every week, as soon as we got home, they'd take them off. They still do that. They come home, they hang up their church dresses, hang up their church shirts, put away their shoes, things like that, so they stay nice for the next week. I don't do a lot of cleanup. I still don't do any cleanup really on Sunday. I might do dishes, maybe, not always. Sometimes I just throw them in the dishwasher. We like to have easy meals this day. I try to really focus on not doing a whole lot on Sunday because it is our day of rest, and it does make you feel a whole lot better. So just focus on Sunday as being your bare minimum day. All right, sun's coming in this way. It's giving me weird faces here. So that is how we have managed to set up our home. You can do it differently, but just focus on doing a set thing kind of each day. We still do things on like our Monday laundry day. We still do other chores because we have to, but not the deep cleaning, not the big baking, not the errand running, not all the office stuff. So you just do what you can do for your family. I hope you enjoyed today's video on managing your home. Hopefully I gave you some ideas of things that you can implement into your own life. Do what you can do for you. Remember, my life, I was reading from when my kids were little, and then shared a little bit how it is now, because life is a little bit different when you have older kids. Don't always look at people's lives and go, oh, I need to do it like that because that works for them. Nope, you got to do what works for you in your current situation and in your home and your family size, because that's the only way to do it. I just share because I've had little kids. I know how busy life can be, and now my kids are older and life is a whole lot easier than it was when they were little. So, all right, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'm going to see you again tomorrow for another day in the life. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.